Welcome from my heart place to your heart place, Rachelle, to the Heart Place Hospital podcast.
Thank you, Jackie.
Exciting.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. So I want to introduce you, Rachelle, from Mother of Adventure, and you're a trauma survivor, family therapist, and author who blends lived experience with deep professional expertise. A lifelong learner, you recently graduated from MIT with a Bachelor of Applied Counselling, adding to your qualifications from Unitec, the Psychosynthesis Institute, and Massey University. Your journey in counselling began at Youthline in 2003. Now you support survivors of family violence and sexual abuse through SOS Kaipara in your private practice. Beyond therapy, you're a trusted business mentor, helping local businesses through leadership, development, sales, marketing, teamwork, and navigating hiring and firing decisions. And then today on the Heart Place Hospital podcast, we're actually going to explore a little bit more about the power of horses in healing and transformation. So quite a segue from that introduction. But this is how we've connected, is through your work with equine therapy. And that's why I really wanted that to come onto the Heart Place Hospital podcast as another modality that we can share with people. So I guess I start with if we were speed dating, a little bit about Rachelle, if you could share that with us.
I think a lot of people ask me, how did I get into this? How do I know how to do equine therapy? And I think that's a really good question, because I don't just I don't draw from like a modality of this is how you do it. I've looked at different types of ways that other people are maybe doing it, but I've drawn from my experience of working with horses and children with horses and coaching other people, and I guess training horses as well, and then combined with all of my experience in working with groups, especially those leadership programs, doing outdoor adventure stuff, to be able to incorporate, like, how does someone learn this utilizing a kayak, a surfboard, the outdoors. And so the horses are just such a easy place for me to sort of bring those together. It's still a touch of play therapy, a touch of creative arts or nature therapy. But yeah, the horses are just such a easy sort of space that I can, I know my horses really well, so I know my partners really well when I'm working with them. And that's a big part of when I go in there, is go, hey, they trust me, they know me, and I'm going to teach you how you can kind of interact with them. And and I think the most beautiful thing is just seeing this delight and ease of stepping into the counselling paddock, I guess, instead of a counselling room.
Oh, I love that. That. And so, I mean, there's a real horsey type, there's often young people who are really drawn to the horse. And then, but there's sort of like, I've been into your paddock, and that's not something that was familiar to me, but I really felt this energy, like this real connection, and like it sort of felt like kind of like joy, like a joyful feeling.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're experiencing with people that come into the paddock?
I'll often explain to people, there's things that are working that are bigger, the magic, like leaving room for magic. And I think that's where the horses bring that, like connecting back to that child in themselves, not being judged by the horses. And there's sort of that touch of joy, because horses, like, they're unicorns, it's like yay, I get to just be who I want to be with these horses. I don't have to please anyone. And so there is just that absolute magical piece that happens, spirits there. I think one of the things when I say to them, the horses will often yawn, and and I go, oh, that's the horse processing healing for you, and they're just like, wow, like they're just like, oh, so and I think that some of those things are really amazing, because you can't always explain those types of things, say, in a counselling room. You don't have that spot of like, wow, we're not out in the weather.
I wonder if you could share, like you've shared that story with me, and then a story where the horses laid down. I wonder if you could share that as well, that experience.
That was an amazing experience because for me that was, like I'm doing this was quite groundbreaking. Lots of people like, how this equine therapy, blah 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 blah, and it's still really really new because it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
What do you do there? Why does this work? So I had a group of women that had come along for a workshop, and part of that workshop was about using the horses or asking the horses for healing. And so how that came about is, we kind of had a discussion up at the barn about what is it that you're wanting to get out of it. So setting an intention is really, really key. And then going down to the horses, and I did a centering, so a breathing exercise where they're totally connected into themselves, into Mother Earth, and then connecting out into the horses and to the divine. So, and then we walked into the paddock because we were just standing outside, so always safety sort of first. This is all new. Some people don't necessarily
You were
know
great. You were great that with me because that was new to me, and you were great. Yeah.
Yeah, I always take my time with that, because it's like a fence. I'm asking you to shut your eyes and connect into yourself, and you need to stay safe. So, and then we walked in and touched the horses, and that same sort of thing. Oh, the horses they're licking and chewing. They're moving into the rest and digest and space, that parasympathetic nervous system. And then, the yawning and bits and pieces. And the yawning's not because they were tired, but, it's like, so moving into, we stepped back, and it was about a metre away. Joy, who we'd just, funnily enough, got a horse called Joy, was just there, and she just lay down like really fast. So it was, and she was like right out, eyes closed, and you could just see her stomach moving. And that's our theta state. That's our theta brainwave, which is our healing state that we have, so that little moment where you just drop off into sleep and you move into that theta brainwave. I do theta healing as well. So that sort of situation, and we're just, you're just spellbound, it's like, okay, and just standing.
And so do we pick up that energy? Like, do we end up in that state too from being in the presence?
Yes, absolutely. Well, you're picking up the healing because the setting of the intention, that whole intention, like what I find even by people booking a session and, they've walked down the drive or they've walked into the place, they've set an intention and my, a lot of clients, they get to know that when they come back, that it's like, Rachelle's going to ask me what I want to get out of today. How do I want to feel by the time I leave? That setting that intention, well, you're setting that and putting that out into the space, and the horses are helping facilitate you to achieve that.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And because I know you do work with the local schools, with children and families, so is this open up to all ages as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So with my work with the younger children, one of the things that is really key is that they are a part of that whole system. And especially while they're, the under 12s are connected to their family. They're with them pretty much 24/7 if they're not at school. As opposed to teenagers, I do work with teenagers, but I tend to work with them separately, but definitely with the younger ones. So I always invite that the whole family comes. So I like, brothers and sisters. So there'll be, say, a child that the school might have said, hey, look, that could be useful for you to come and do some therapy. I had, after the floods, a lot of separation anxiety, bits and pieces there. And, so stress, realistically is what we're working with. And it's like, okay, let's come and do a session. The whole family, whoever is inside your household is the family. It might even be, I've had grandparents come because they're part of the whole family piece. And then they're able to come out. And so I get to be able to sort of work with them to teach them all about breathing exercises, help them understand their nervous systems, that emotional sort of regulation. So I use a lot of Bruce Perry stuff, which is the neurosequential processing. And then, because of course, when you're working with the developmental trauma, it's certain things being stuck in that really physical space of the limbic brain. And so, yeah, so that's where it pieces it right back to that survival piece, and then helping them to see with the breathing, you know, how they're sort of able to emotionally regulate. And then they get this lovely mirror with the horses. Yeah, of, oh, look, you know, that they're sort of calm and they're coming forward towards them and they're able to interact. Even, you know, I'll teach them horse breathing, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And so all of these sort of fun things, and then it's like, okay, now you're going to be able to go away, and, you know, the horses will, you know, do their sort of different bits and pieces and horse breathing too, you know, and it's kind of quite fun. I then get a chance to connect with the children with their parents who they feel safe with. If that's the situation. Yeah. And then, you know, I might say to them, hey, would you like me to see you when we come into school? And, you know, and often they'll talk about it, and I would talk with the parents about being able to put a routine of doing breathing and emotional regulation with the children. Yeah. So it's always working together. Sometimes with some children as well as like, how do I work with the school to support them too? So depending upon what's going on, you know, their disruptive behaviour is able to kind of go, where is it happening? Where is it not happening? And how can we talk to the teachers, talk to the other people around them to be able to support them?
I love it, because really you're creating a safe, soft sanctuary for people, regardless of age or gender, to interact with nature, but then also meet you with your expertise, so you can interweave your knowledge and your kite of care into that session.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the horses help me a little bit because I've got so much, like, I love teaching and I love explaining all of this, but we get to just do it in action, you know, and I can just go, that's okay, the horses are going to show you. And we can be quiet.
I love that. I think it's like coming back to our human nature, really, that intuitive learning rather than using a whole lot of words, and often if you know, we've all got different learning styles, so sometimes a whole lot of words can, even I find it like, whoa, just overpowering. So it's wonderful to be able to have it as a interactive experience, and, you know, sometimes not necessarily you want to sort of really dive into the icky story, so it's an opportunity to really alchemize whatever's going on through the beautiful power of or energy of the animal and nature. And then teamed with your knowledge and expertise.
Thank you. Well, we heal through relationship, and you know, if you've got an experience of not trusting people, then being able to, you know, I had a client today and it's like, let's go see the horses, you know, and that was a little scary for her, but it was like, well, this is a place where you can have this experience of being with horses and learn to be able to trust that, you know, and they're not people. So you're able to get that lovely feedback and, I guess, co-regulation. I mean, we're social beings. We do need to heal through those relationships, so the horses enable you to have a relationship.
And then I'm just thinking aloud here, and I'd just be curious to see what you say, is like, you can then refer back to that experience, so then use those tools to actually self-regulate, as opposed to relying on other people or means to regulate your nervous system. Just thinking for young kids, or probably even myself, I can probably, you think, oh, I've had that experience, I'm going to mimic that experience within my own environment. Is that kind of what you find people can do?
sometimes I'll take photos and so it's like, hey, you've got a nice little visual reminder of it, or a little video, take a photo with the horse, or a photo of the horse, or they can go online and be able to see I've got breathing exercises and things like that online, and centering exercises with the horses. So able to sort of, have those little tools that remind people. I think, sometimes with some clients, it's like, well, you're going to come here and just breathe. So you're able to leave with that experience of what being regulated is about, and then you've got that body memory of, okay, I walk here and I do this, same as I looked at the photo of the horse and me, and it's like, oh, that just reminds me to just do my belly breathing and just connect in with who am I, in that space. So. Yeah.
And what are the horses like afterwards? Do you know how dogs sort of shake off energy? Like, do they have to do anything afterwards? Do you find they do anything?
Actually, that was another client was like, oh, they've taken on all my energy and trauma, and I feel terrible if that has happened, and I'm like, no, that's, they're processing everything in the moment. I'm really very mindful of the horses, so they're all at liberty. So they can come and go. The right horse sort of shows up. I've got 4 horses there, and they're doing it in the moment. So they are processing and helping you let go. And they're not taking on your stuff. Like they're providing that connection that releases it. Yeah.
Oh my God, they're the ultimate healer, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, they're sentient beings, right? Yeah. And I think as well too, that whole intention piece. So, I put those sorts of things around, and I check in with them, and I'm really, really respectful of, you can work or you cannot work. I'm not going to make you do anything. And I think that's really key. A big part of why trauma is so debilitating is because people had no choice. It happened to them, and so they had to do whatever it was to survive. So if I was to, some people have said, well, why couldn't we have had the horses in the arena and they've got a halter on and all of those sorts of things, and I'm like, because then they don't have choice. And choice is so key. I use probably a lot of Viktor Frankl stuff, which is, man's search for meaning, and the difference between stimulus and response. And, and I go explain it like this, and I'm like, okay, this is about when you breathe, you've got, this is what's going on, and here's the wider we've got this, the more choice we've got, the more free will we've got. And, that freedom of choice is really key. So, so that's what we're practicing is okay, and breathe. And with the horses, so that first time is building trust, etc. When we go into the paddock, then the next time I'm like, the horses will remember you. So whatever you do here, and then we'll just step it up, because you're going to need that little challenge, because we need to just push you a little bit outside your comfort zone, and and then you're able to breathe through it, and you're able to have a different experience of being able to, I could manage that. I could keep myself safe without having to leave. Yeah.
And then also, like, I'm just keep thinking out aloud here, but I'm just thinking, then they can sort of, people can see their progress as well. Like, whereas if you're just doing more traditional talk therapy, it's sometimes hard to kind of actually see your progress. Whereas when you're, like, I think about my first visit to like a second visit, I'd be like, I'm nailing this. So you can actually see a progress in your journey
and yourself. Yes. And I think that's I think the thing that really cements that was the programs that I used to do with children. And so the parents would drop them, and it was 3 days, so it was right after each other. So the first day was trust, and they're learning and they're building safety, and what is this place, and we're meeting each other as well. And then the second day, might be some team building, so we do different things, and the parents are getting this experience too. Their children have come here for 2 hours, and then they come home and they're all calm and relaxed, and they're like, what do you do there? How do you have this thing that my children are so relaxed and calm? on the last day we have it that the parents come for half an hour before the end, and we do a parade, so the horses might have been dressed up and the children get to be able to sort of show like they're leading or whatever it is that they want to show. We have had drumming, so there'll be some doing the drums and the others are walking the horses around and they're doing different obstacles and things. And so you really, in that 3 days, the children have this experience of like, they just lifted.
It's growth, isn't it? Yeah.
They're like, I can see, I can do this.
Yeah.
So the parents are seeing their children are regulated and coming home like that. And then they're able to sort of go, wow, drop my child off, keen, but a little like, what's this?
Yeah.
And, and then they're like, show, look at what I can do. And this is what the horse is about. And they're able to express their joy to their parents, and so it is. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. What would your ultimate be to be offering the horses? Like, what would be the ultimate vision of providing this service to people?
I think that's where I'm at the moment, where it would be nice to be able to prescribe. So it's like, hey, look, come along. The thing is, I do art therapy, I'll do music therapy. Like I use a wide range of different ways to be able to, meet you and support the person or the family. And is being able to sort of say, hey, look, I think, 10 sessions, I'll write your script.
Yeah.
And for me to be able to sort of train and support people to be able to work with the horses, so it's not all me. So it's like, so then we can have more people coming. So it's like, and there's a lot of people who are really keen to do equine therapy, but they don't have my skills, like or my qualifications, if you like, which is required. And so but that isn't required for the horses to do their job. Like I've worked with them, and then so that they'll just be able to have more people sort of being able to come and enjoy the horses, and have that sort of ongoing, like we just talked about, those, like, it's not just coming the once. It's like, okay, I'm going to come back and practice it.
Building on that.
It's like doing yoga. You can go to a class, and I've done like things called horsefulness, which is like horses or yoga, like horse yoga or horse mindfulness is mindfulness with horses. It would be nice to sort of see that sort of class situation. I think the other one is, it's certainly around that spiritual development. I'm like, hey, this is actually you being able to grow your spiritual, your connection to yourself, to your higher self. And, I know with people talk about addiction, and, we're addicted to attitudes and behaviours as well, right?
True.
And so it's like, well, we could look really hard at that behaviour, and you see that with a behavioural therapist, is that they're like, right, we're going to change that behaviour. But if we were to look at like growing your connection to yourself and your purpose, and really being able to, that holds you up, well, then those addictions drop away. And, it's just, and AA use it. It's like, you go to the higher power, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what I'm seeing on a major scale is, if I can resource you in this space that, that feeds your spirit and your soul, then, you don't need those other things.
And that's how you and I connected, because I'm so passionate about showcasing, like doing these podcasts, so that people can actually see that there's alternatives, or not alternatives, there's, I like to say, choices for us to connect with our whole self, with self, capital S. We know through our lived experience, when we do that, then our life unfolds and opens up, and abundance is welcome, and we feel well and at our best, and then that's why I'm so passionate about supporting those who are in frontline roles, because then that ripple effects out to everybody else. So when we work with uplifting their frequency, and then it's a no-brainer that it just supports the rest of the community that they're working with.
Yeah, 100%. You know, like I was just talking to you about some of the people that are within Mangawhai, other, let's say, in the healing spaces or in the, you know, in the helping sort of profession. Yeah, having been here now almost 9 years, you know, really have those connections. We've all grown with our connections with each other, and you know, you just like we're all you know, wrapping around those different people, and it's like it's so nice because if I see something, I mean, one of the things that I see around concussion is really fascinating. It's like, okay, this is going on, and then I'm like, oh, concussion. Another one was around B12, you know, understanding. It's like, oh, okay, you're vegetarian, right? So you've got depression, and you're, you know, like anxiety and depression, and you're vegetarian. Do you have B12 shots? You know, and it's like, what? You know, and then it's like, okay, this is not totally my area, but I can send you to here, right? Or same with the concussion, or, you know, I was talking about osteopathy, and it's like, I know I can send that person, you know, in there, and they really know their stuff. And we've got some incredible talent here in Mangawhai. And that isn't necessarily in the rest of New Zealand, and we have to try and keep those wonderful workers, right? So there is a requirement to have someone else looking out. You know, and like I said with one of the other workers today, you know, I was like, oh, you know, the tornado, I saw that go through your clinic, and you know, and I knew that was important. So, you know, I'm like sitting there going, I'm holding you. You know, you do not need me to come along and have a chat, but, you know, like, but and on the next time I see you, I'm going to tell you that, and you're going to just get it. And you're like, oh, yes.
That reciprocity, isn't it? And that it's community collaboration, care, and it's definitely a very, very, very unique village in that sense. And and I love being able to provide opportunities for people to create and share their offerings so that it's sustainable for them to show up in their best version of themselves. But that collaboration and building like healing roundtables, we are multidimensional beings. So rather than us all being experts at everything, then we can all have our the corners of the world that we keep beautiful, and share that round and create a whole village of healed healers.
And I mean that other thing too, it doesn't always have to be in person. You know, it doesn't have to be. Often there's a lot of myths around healing and getting better, and I think, you know, the knowing why, or you have to have an hour session, you know, like there's just, you know, clarity around that instant healing. Like I know with certain clients, like a long time ago, before we really had Zoom, you know, we were on Skype, and it's like, okay, can't get there, but can we do it online? And often comments were, I didn't think I would get as much of a connection, you know, I didn't think I would be able to feel like this, you know, over Zoom or over online. And then once they've done it once, then they're like more open to it. And this might sound really random now because we've all got on it a lot more. But, you know, that is still really available to us. But that was certainly something that was interesting. And now, if anything, I've gravitated a lot more back to, I want you in the paddock. You know?
I think people are actually craving that face-to-face again. And that's where I see with Heart Place Hospital is it actually not being necessarily one brick and mortar, like it being spread out all over. And we've got that already, service providers throughout the country, so that people their needs are met. So if it is face-to-face, in person, or if the convenience online works for you, then we're actually offering bespoke support that meets your needs rather than just a tick box of the next person in line.
that was probably where, my connections with horses is just like all over New Zealand, so I've got lots of people, like I said, don't necessarily have my quals or connections, but it's like, but I could be going, hey, look, and analyze this situation, and hey, but I do know this person down the road there, and go and get some more sessions with them. So I think it's, if anything, all it does is create that abundance of, we're here to help. There's more and more people wanting to help each other. And
there's more people that have been gravitating to service, and which is amazing. And I think there's a real huge potential here, because as long as we can make it sustainable for everybody, then we don't have to be working, until we don't have to keep other people warm and burning ourselves out. I welcome more service providers in this world. I think it's really needed more than ever.
And the speed in which we can heal works too, right? So that's just, it's like, no, it doesn't have to be lots of sessions,
I agree.
You've got to look at exactly what it is. I mean, I had another client that was today as well, was an equine therapy client, and she 14-year-old, and she'd started to come just before Christmas, and then she was just sort of coming along. I already had another session booked, but I was sitting there today and I went, I think we could close. Where are you at? Like, how are you feeling with your mental health? What would you like to do? And being able to kind of text her mum and go, we've decided to close, so we'll just cancel that next appointment, and I think that's really exciting. It's like, hey, I don't know. I've had another client, and this is where the horses can be really fast. And she, that one session, and then the next, I was like, okay, we'll just have a follow-up session, and she's just like, and she came along, and it's like, she said it's between night and day. After battling major anxiety and depression, and she's like, I need to send you my dad, and I need to send you, it's like I was like, great, and then it's like, this is fantastic, and it couldn't be any better, and it's like, that's a great connection. Cool. 2 sessions done.
I love that.
After a lifetime of anxiety and depression, it's like, wow. So bring in speed, right?
Yeah, totally. Next.
It just that opens up. Like I said, I'm really careful with the horses and their energy. So if they can heal them faster, let's do that.
I love this. Oh, thank you so much, Rachelle. I've loved this, and I can't wait to share this with everybody else. I'd just love for you to share with our watchers or listeners something that's coming up in your heart place, and how people can find you.
Okay, they can find me. So I have a new website, or a new name these days, which is Hurahanga, Healing and Transformation. And that was very much about stepping back more into that healing space, rather than just the counselling, and moving away from leadership, although I seem to keep going back to it. So being able to find me on that website, and I'm sure you'll put that out there. I'm in Te Arai, so that puts me in the Auckland sort of area. So I'm only an hour away from Auckland City, which is not far. And then my phone number, etc., would be out there. I think probably what's really sitting in my heart is that community piece. So really, really honour. Like I said before, we heal in relationship, and I think the more that we combine together within that energy, the more we're able to enable more people. Like I love meeting a family or meeting a child, and then talking to the parents and going, okay, well, we could do this, this, and this. How can I support you to do that? It might not necessarily be me working with the child. Like I can't do an injection and go, right, you're all fixed, but I can certainly give you a prescription that says, hey, this is better, and and working with more people within my community helps do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really what's in my heart.
Beautiful. It's in mine too. Thank you so much. I loved it. Thank you.